All over the United States and all over the world, relationships are going through their ups and downs right now. The Oxygen 365 podcast brings you some of the best relationship advice, thinking, and practical ideas available. Advice you can act on this moment, or tonight, tomorrow, or when you need it the most. Our collection of interviews with some of the top authors, speakers, and leaders in all aspects of relationships can help you grow, get through a trouble spot, or make an already good day great. Get ready to join our host, Noel Metter, as he interviews our guests each week, bringing you the best and most current information on improving your relationships. Whether you're dating, engaged, newly married, empty nesters, or in the thick of a problem, you're sure to gain something from our interview today. So without further delay, here's Noel with today's guest and a ton of solid, practical relationship advice.
Welcome to Oxygen 365. I'm your host, Noel Metter, and this is episode 11. And today our guest is Dr. Dorothy Bonvillan, and she has spent over 4 decades serving the military as a military spouse to her husband. She's a coach, a speaker, author of several books, including the one that we're going to focus on today, which is Loving Your Life, 7 Steps to Military Wives. She's a trainer in the personal, professional development, transformational leadership space, and cross-cultural competencies. And I think one of the distinguishing things about Dorothy is that she is a mentor to military wives everywhere. So Dorothy, thank you for being on the show with us. Welcome.
I am delighted, Noel, to be here. I'm ready to share.
Awesome. Well, hey, on today's show, we're really going to be looking at some specific actionable advice about military spouses' inner circle and finding their purpose and dream. And so I want to just jump right in there. You know, in your book, you talk about this inner circle. What is it? What does that mean?
Inner circle it's a concept that most people aren't aware of. And I went all the way through a doctoral program, and I wasn't aware of the importance of the inner circle. So the quote that I like to use most is from Jim Rohn, and he says, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." So what I would ask military wives to do is to really think about how critical that is. I mean, the first time I heard that, I was like, whoa, I really need to think about this. One exercise to do right away is sit down and start thinking about who are the 5 people I spend the most time with. Get you a journal, write it down. Write it down. It's really key. Get those top 5 and then start asking yourself, okay, these are my key relationships. There are sort of 4 parts to this. It's you, it's your family, it's your friends, and then the other really important, often missing piece to this is to find a mentor. You know, a lot of military wives say, well, how do I find a mentor? You know, I'm often uprooted. I'm trying to find my way in a new place. Look for a mentor. You have to be intentional about it. And find someone who's doing something. Find someone, for example, if you want to be a teacher, and you're going to have to go back to school, you know, find a teacher and start asking, what are the steps? Find someone who's doing what you want to do. Ask them to mentor you. Don't think that it's going to happen without asking. You need to ask them. You know, John Maxwell talks about when he was just starting out, he even paid people for their time with money he didn't yet have. But it was that important to find a good mentor who could share, here's the steps that I did, here's what I did well, here's what I didn't do well, and then apply that to this top 5 people. Okay?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And tell me, why do military wives especially need this? From your perspective, after 4 decades, right? I think you have something to say here.
Why do they need a mentor?
Well,
why do they need to go through?
Yeah, mentor, it's this inner circle concept.
Oh, absolutely. It's so critical because, let's see, how can I, you know, you're uprooted. That's one of the biggest issues that military wives talk about is, you know, the PCS process, the transition process. And so you're in this struggle that I call survival mode, you know, and you're trying to figure out, okay, you're trying to get your kids settled. If you have children, you're trying to get plugged in. So if you're not aware of how important these top 5 people are, then people show up and you just sort of begin to live your life and you plug in however you can because you're only there for a period of time. If you understand the 5 people, the most important 5 people who you become the average of, then you're going to be very aware and intentional of who am I going to select that I really want to spend my time with. And this includes even family members, Noel.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that gets kind of sticky.
Right.
But if you have family members who, when you say, you know, I want to learn to be a coach, and you know, I'm gonna go to a coaching association, I'm gonna get a certification for a coach, and you have a family member who says, who do you think you are? You know, and they're trying to hold you back. They don't want to see that kind of forward change or progress in you. Then even they need to be, don't be ugly to anyone. You know, that's not our purpose. Mm-hmm. But they need to be put on the second tier. Mm-hmm. And that inner circle, that 5 people, you need to selectively and intentionally choose who they are. Write them down. And then this is a process that you do annually. You do an annual review. And you look at those 5 people you've selected, because generally military families are somewhere for 3 years unless you're abroad, and it's sometimes 2. But annually, you need to review those top 5. You need to know why they're there. You need to understand what it is that they're contributing to your dreams and goals, and what you contribute to them. It's a two-way street. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then you need to have that outstanding member, in addition to those 5 people that is mentoring you, who are not way up here, but they're either 1 or 2 steps ahead of you, and they can guide you along the process.
Right. And I should probably clarify that this is not just for military wives. This is really for spouses, right? This is for guys. This is
for anyone.
Very valuable to guys too, right?
Absolutely. And, you know, I wrote this. I have a children's book as well. And this is one of the leadership principles that I'm teaching children. Because if someone would have told me about the concept of the law of the inner circle when I was in the 3rd grade, I would have been so much more aware and selective of who I was pouring myself into and who was pouring themselves into me. Mm-hmm. So that's what it is. So there's a process. It's realizing that you are the center of this, okay? Now, in my book, I have a graphic where the inner circle is the center, and around that are key things that are part of that inner circle. People who are in there, you need to have love and respect mutually. You need to have integrity and trust mutually. You need to have effective communication, and that means someone, you know, listening is a skill. Mm-hmm. It's a skill that military wives or anyone needs to develop. And anyone within your inner circle, they need to be people who listen and then encourage you. Another really important piece to this is in that journal where you're writing down your top 5 people, why they're there, and what you exchange, you know, what's really important about them being there. You also need to have, you need to really be thinking about that exchange piece, you know, that what's a healthy relationship? What's an unhealthy relationship? I go through that in my book. Mm-hmm. For example, these people, if you have love and respect, then they're going to be caring. It's going to be trust. There's going to be a two-way friendship. You're going to be open with each other. You're going to be able to communicate honestly. Military wives in particular, you know, it's a high-stress lifestyle. So you need someone that you can open up to and who will listen in a non-judgmental way, but in a supportive way, but will also speak into your inner circle. They have to say, hey, Dorothy, you need to, you know, wait a minute here.
Yeah.
You know, they've got to be really honest and open with you. That's so important.
Right.
So,
well, and I'd have to think that depending on the inner circle, and you talk about you become the average of that, this is intricately connected to your dream and your future. Would you agree to that?
Absolutely. It is a key piece to being able to move this forward. Now, so as a young military,
let me ask that question just in terms of finding your purpose and your dream. Why is this so important? I think you talk about this in your book. There's like some pretty deep parts of why you believe this is such a crucial part for military spouses to come to this realization.
Yeah, and what I want to help them do is come to it early on. Mm-hmm. Because what I feel like I did, Noel, And it wasn't that I was unhappy as a military spouse, but I struggled as a military spouse. I already had my master's degree when
How did you
married.
struggle? How did you struggle?
My best description, and this is kind of hard to put into words, but is I sort of lost myself along the way. I lost my vision of what I wanted to do. I always knew I wanted to be a teacher, and I did that. And I taught even, in our moving around. But I wanted to be, I guess my heart, had I understood sort of this inner circle concept, this mentorship piece that I didn't understand back then, if I'd had those two pieces of the puzzle, I would have sat down early on and I would have realized that being a coach, which is more than just being a teacher, but it's being able to step into someone's life and really listen to when they talk about, I've always wished I could do this. My question is always, what makes your heart sing? Now that sounds fluffy, but it's not. Okay.
Give us some teeth to that. Give us some teeth, because you're right. It does sound fluffy. If I was listening to this, I'd say, well, okay, my heart sing. I'm not sure if I understand what that means.
Well, you can ask yourself, and I recommend that people do this every day. Make sure every day you do something that makes your heart sing. Okay? If that's listen to music, if music raises your spirit, then definitely do it. If reading a really good book, and being able to transport yourself into that scenario, if that makes your heart sing, then make sure you take time to do that every day. If writing is something that makes your heart sing, we all have different things that sort of charge us up, but we know when that is. We're not, it's effortless. It's something that it comes natural and we just want to do it. And military wives have so many things on their plate that I didn't take time for that. I was constantly, I call it struggling to survive. And in doing so, I lost that vision of the bigger picture. These things are so hard to describe, but it's, I would have been a coach.
Right.
I would have been a coach, because a coach steps in and can listen to someone who feels like their life is a mess, and they can help them understand that yesterday ended last night. Where do you want to go from today? Well, and then they can.
Let's talk about. Let me, because I think what you're talking about is, how do you find your dream, right? I mean, for you, your dream was to coach. So help our listeners understand, how do you find your dream? I mean, so let me just kind of recap here. So you're talking about your inner circle helps create the pathway where they're speaking into you encouragement to help you ultimately find purpose and your dream. But as an individual, if I'm a listener, I'm thinking, how do I find my dream? I know it's there, but I just don't know how to get there. Yeah.
I think one exercise, just like the inner circle exercise and the annual review exercise, and identifying a mentor and getting that mentor in place. And another one is to sit down and do a values exercise. Okay, if you live a values-based life, ask yourself, what are my core values? Okay, you may want to do this with a close friend. You may want to do this with your spouse. You should also sit down and do this as a family. Kids need to be aware. What are our core values as a family? What are our core values as an individual? Okay? Until you understand that piece, Noel, it's hard to decide, okay, what is my purpose? What is my dream? Because it needs to be values-based. And it needs to be core. Now, what are core values? They're non-negotiables. They are those things that if somebody, no matter what the circumstances may be, you are not going to renege on that.
Right.
You're going to be true to those values.
So what are some of your core values? Just so our listeners have a kind of a framework of, because I'm thinking corporate. I'm thinking corporate core values, which are generally boring. And, they're like, oh my gosh, there's this, we think of character and integrity and be the nice person. What are your core values?
Well, integrity is actually one of them.
Okay.
It's one of my top ones. I mean, to me, my husband, after being married for over 40 years, says that I'm frighteningly honest, because I just believe in telling the truth, even if it hurts. You don't have to be mean about it and rip someone's face off. but integrity is really important to me. Another one's family.
Okay.
And it's almost like I set my dream aside to take care of my family and to be a good military wife. And my message is that you don't have to do that. You could do both. And I wasn't aware of that when I was a young military wife. So another one is being supportive, being nurturing. I mean, I want people to know they don't care how much you know. You can be brilliant until they know how much you care.
Right. So you're saying once you've established what your core values are, that's going to be the launching place to figure out what your dream is.
Absolutely.
So what does that process look like? So core values, okay, I've arrived at my core values. I've written those down. I've shared this with my family. I've involved my kids. What's the next step in finding your dream?
Okay, I would say another part is you need to know, the more you know about yourself, the more you're going to be able to build that dream. So here's another step. Here's another piece, and this is an actual exercise that people can do. Okay. And it's a very, very simplified version.
Yeah, I love exercises, practical steps.
Okay, this one is called the shapes exercise. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the shapes exercise is just so simple. And you could get a group of friends. Okay, let's say you've made a new PCS move and you're just beginning to meet people. You could get a group of friends together and do this exercise with them. One is in one part of the room, you can put a square, a circle, a triangle, and a squiggle line. Okay, just a poster board or something with that there. Okay. And then ask people to self-select and to go to which one of those shapes they think would fit them. Okay? And whomever ends up in each group will have a discussion around why they chose that shape and what characteristics do they think fit that shape, because there's some reason that drew them to that particular shape. So once they get in there and you talk about that together, then have we talk about the attributes that they think they have, then have a discussion around the shape preference. The square are people in an organization or in a family, who are very organized. They're very dependable. They're detail oriented. They like data. They like to work independently on their own. Families have these same components. The triangle, if you had all triangles in a group or in a family, they'd be stepping on each other, trying to get to the top. They're very goal-oriented. They're very, let's get there. They have leadership. They're very energetic. They like task and results. So they would be your triangle. Right. Your circle are people like me. They're harmony. They love people. They want people to feel good about themselves. They're nurturers. And they like to please people. And that can even be a fault, So that's another thing that we talk about in the book, and I talk about when I coach, is, you can't please everybody all the time. Right. And the last one is the squiggle line. And these are your people, and we all know them. Some of them have them in our families. They're very innovative. You can't put them in a particular shape, or in a box. They're unique. Right. They like to multitask and juggle things all the time. So that's a good exercise, just as shapes, very simple, but it helps you begin to understand, okay, I fit here. Why do I fit there? And then how can I use that information and that understanding to problem solve? Because military families are constantly, having to solve problems and have a lot of stress. So how do I use that? And how do I use that of my family members, how they differ? How do we make a nice puzzle out of this and we work as a team? Right. It's so important to work as that team. And then any questions that you have, ask that mentor. Yeah. Or have several mentors. One of the things I didn't know too, Noel, is that books are mentors.
Sure. Absolutely.
Our books are mentors. Yep. So another really good exercise that I have in the book is I've developed, and I'm still working on this. It's called a military life cycle graphic. And it really takes, and I do it by seasons. I tie it to a season. But these seasons occur every time you have a PCS move or a deployment, or a long TDY. I mean, these aspects come into play. And so it's another visual that people can have that I expound on in the book, and I would do, in a coaching session or in a group coaching session,
Right.
to help people understand what they're going through.
Yeah. So, and I think what's so relatable to that is, you talk about these different squiggle lines and boxes and shapes. I mean, really, I think many people understand the idea of, disc profile, or what we call fun country, perfect country, peace country, what is the control country, right? They can identify very quickly, but I think it's not to put them in a box, but I think it's helped to create a perspective of, here's how I can bring value. It can add value to other people.
That's right.
Which generally aligns with our dreams, our goals, our purpose in life, is when we figure out how can we bring value to someone else, right?
Yes. Yes.
You know what I think, though, is so interesting in how you've kind of framed this in your book, of starting with that inner circle. The importance of that is so often, I think the dream inhibitor is that we have our own scripts that subconsciously or consciously we begin to identify with, and we've essentially said, this is my lid and I can't go any further. It's those limiting beliefs, and it's that inner circle who comes in and says, you know what, I see potential that you're not seeing right now, and this is the dream that I want to launch you into. I mean, to me, that's what I think that you are communicating in the essence of your book and who you are, which I just want to say thank you. Thank you for how you are coming alongside these military spouses to really instill and offer and bring value into this area of their lives, because I think this is the missing point. This is the missing ingredient that many of us wander around in life, and we know that we're connected to something bigger than ourselves, that there's more purpose for us, but we don't oftentimes know how to get there. And this is huge.
No, I have one more important exercise, okay? And this really has to do with beginning to identify your larger vision, or getting to that purpose, okay? That God-given purpose that, like you're saying, we feel it inside. We don't know how to identify it. We don't know how to get there. Mm-hmm. And here's one way to get there. Take a journal. Journaling, that's a discipline, and it's not easy for people. Writing is a difficult task, but it's so worthwhile. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So take a journal. Each day, get up and take even 30 minutes a day and write your vision, okay? And now this is, let your imagination go free, but make it detailed. Write in a perfect world, with all the resources that I needed, what would it look like? What would that look like? Write it every day, write it fresh every day. Keep writing it, keep writing it. This is what brought me to my clarity for serving military wives, okay? I had no idea when I started out in this. I had so many things I knew I wanted to do, and I wanted to bring value to people, but I didn't know who they were, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. This is how I got there. So you write it every day, and you do that. I did it for several weeks. I had a coach working with me. I highly recommend somebody having that mentor coach. Mm-hmm. So you write the vision, and then after you've gotten real detailed about it, and it feels right, you know when it's right, you know when it's you. Mm-hmm. You're in the middle of that, okay? Then you record it into your iPhone. Most young military wives in particular, they have their iPhone. They're much more savvy than me. But I would record it into my iPhone. I would send it to my coach, and then we'd talk about it. A mentor, a coach, talk about it. Keep getting the details. After you get to a certain point, then and this is where you're talking about these limiting beliefs, because they're below our conscious level,
right?
But they drive our behavior and our dream,
right?
So then after I recorded it and sent it to him, and we talked about it for a while, then I recorded it, and then I played it back right before I went to sleep, so that my subconscious mind heard my own voice describing my dream, my vision for serving military wives in great detail. And when I started out, Noel, I did not know this at all. This came out of that exercise.
Wow. So you were kind of rewriting the script in a subconscious way by doing this exercise.
I was rewriting the script in my mind and in my heart, in my subconscious,
that's
blowing
powerful.
Away those limiting beliefs, because we all have them.
Right.
Sure,
absolutely.
We all have them.
Well, Dorothy,
so
I want to say
that's where it came from.
That's so. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your own personal journey, because I think that's so relatable, right? We all have our own lids, and we all have our own scripts, and we're constantly coming against that. And it's when we finally realize that we can't do this alone. Like, we need to invite other people into this process, but careful in who we invite into that, right? Are they going to be the ones that
very intentional?
Are they going to be the ones that continue to put the lid over the top of us and saying, no, you don't, you shouldn't, you can't? Or are they going to be saying, no, I see potential, opportunity, and vision and dreams that are bigger than what you could ever imagine? And I think that's what you're sharing with our listeners. And thank you. I truly thank you for what you're doing and what you're bringing to this community. It's so valuable. Hey, if you want to know more about her book, we have all the information right below this video. And so Dorothy, thank you, and take care.
Thank you, Noah. I love it.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.